I still remember the day my parents told me I wasn't worth investing in. Those exact words. I was 16, standing in the kitchen, holding my acceptance letter to a summer business program I dreamed of for months. It wasn't even expensive, nothing compared to what they'd already spent on my sister, Emily. Emily was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. My parents sent her to private schools, paid for violin lessons, and even financed a semester in Paris because she deserved to explore her potential. Every time she got a B, my mom would say, "Don't worry, sweetie, grades don't define you." When I got an A, she'd say, "Well, you should have gotten that anyway." I learned early that love in my family came with conditions. If I wasn't perfect, or rather, if I wasn't Emily, I was invisible. When Emily turned 18, my parents threw her a party that could have been mistaken for a small wedding. $1,000 dress, catering, decorations, everything. When I turned 18, they handed me a small cake from the supermarket and said, "Sorry, money's tight this year." But the truth was, it was never tight for Emily. At school, I tried to make myself small, quieter, less needy, less seen. I worked part-time at a local cafe, saving every dollar I could. My parents said I didn't need to work, but they didn't offer to help either. Meanwhile, Emily was too busy studying to have a job, even though she rarely did her own homework. One night, I overheard my parents talking in the living room. My dad said, "Michelle's a good kid, but she's not going anywhere. Let's focus on Emily. She's got real potential." My mom agreed. "Michelle's not as ambitious. She's simple." Simple. That word cut deeper than they could imagine. From that moment, something inside me changed. I stopped trying to impress them. Instead, I started working for myself. By the time Emily left for college in Paris, fully funded by my parents, of course, I was still stuck in our small hometown, taking community college classes and working 2 jobs. I was exhausted, yes, but there was something else in me now. Anger, fire, and quiet determination. Every time I saw one of Emily's Instagram posts, croissants, fancy dresses, the Eiffel Tower, I felt a mix of jealousy and motivation. If she could have that kind of life because of our parents' money, I would build mine without it. Still, the hardest part wasn't the comparison. It was the loneliness. My parents barely talked to me anymore. Family dinners became unbearable, just my parents bragging about Emily's adventures, her incredible potential, her bright future. Once, I tried to share that I'd gotten a scholarship offer for a small business program. My dad barely looked up from his phone. "That's nice, Michelle," he said, "but those things don't really go anywhere. Focus on something realistic." Something realistic. To them, my dreams were fantasy. But to me, their approval was the fantasy. A few months later, everything came to a breaking point. I had been saving money for over a year to start a small online clothing shop. Nothing big, just handmade accessories and upcycled clothes. I showed my mom the mock-ups, the logo, the tiny website I'd built myself. She laughed. "Oh, Michelle," she said softly, "you really think people will buy this?" When I said yes, her expression shifted to pity. "You're not like Emily. She's a visionary. You just need stability." That was the moment I decided I'd leave. I packed my things the next night. No big speech, no goodbye dinner. Just a note that said, "I need to prove to myself that I can be more." I moved to a small city 2 hours away, sharing a cramped apartment with a stranger I found online. I worked at a bakery by day and took online business classes at night. It was brutal. There were days I could barely afford food, nights when I questioned everything. Why I left, whether my parents were right, whether maybe I really wasn't good enough. But every time I felt like giving up, I remember that moment in the kitchen. The way my mom laughed. The way my dad said I'd never go anywhere. I started reading everything I could about marketing, e-commerce, and business. I watched tutorials, joined online communities, and tested small product ideas. My first shop failed, my second one too. But I didn't stop. I refused to let their words define me. A year later, I received a message from my mom. "Emily's graduating soon. We're flying to Paris to celebrate. You should come." She didn't ask how I was doing. Didn't ask about my life. Just, "Come see your sister shine." I smiled at the screen and typed back, "I can't. I'm busy working." She replied, "You're still at that bakery? Michelle, you need to be more like your sister." I deleted the message. I didn't cry this time. I just whispered to myself, "You'll see." That night, I opened my laptop and started sketching out my next plan. A real business this time. Not handmade clothes. Something scalable. Something that could change my life. I didn't know it yet, but that night was the true beginning of everything. The night Michelle, the simple one, the unrealistic dreamer, began building the empire that would one day make her family regret every word they ever said. The first few months on my own were the hardest of my life. I used to think loneliness was quiet, but it wasn't. It was loud. It screamed in every unpaid bill. Every night I came home from work smelling like bread and exhaustion. Every text from my parents that never came. But that silence, it became fuel. I spent every spare minute studying. Marketing, business psychology, design, I absorbed everything. While Emily was sipping wine at art galleries, I was watching YouTube tutorials about branding and product sourcing at 2 a.m. And even though my hands shook from too much coffee and too little sleep, I felt something I'd never felt at home: purpose. My bakery job paid almost nothing, but it gave me one unexpected gift: connections. I met dozens of small business owners, florists, designers, local crafters. They became my teachers. I asked questions. I listened. And slowly, I learned what it really took to build something from nothing. The first business I launched was a disaster. I tried selling eco-friendly tote bags online. I thought people would love them. They didn't. I sold 5. Total. My second attempt was a handmade jewelry line. I poured everything into it. My savings, my time, my hope. But I didn't know how to market it, and it crashed even harder. I cried for 3 days straight. Not because of the failure, but because I could hear my parents' voices in my head. "We told you this would happen. You're not like your sister." But instead of giving up, I wrote those words on a sticky note and pinned them to my wall. Every morning when I woke up, I'd look at it and whisper, "Watch me." That's when I discovered social media marketing. At first, it was just curiosity. I noticed how some small brands blew up overnight with the right story. Authentic, emotional, real. I studied viral posts like they were textbooks. I analyzed hashtags, engagement, timing. Then I started creating. I built an account dedicated to helping small creators sell their products, sharing tips, trends, and motivational posts. It wasn't about me anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been told, "You're not enough." Within 3 months, I had 50,000 followers. Within 6 months, 200,000. Brands started reaching out, asking if I could manage their pages. At first, I said no. I didn't think I was ready. But rent was due, and confidence grows fast when you're hungry. So I said yes. That one yes changed everything. I started freelancing as a social media manager. Then I got 2 clients. Then 4. I worked day and night, managing content, creating strategies, tracking analytics. I barely slept, but I didn't care. And then one day, a skincare startup I worked with went viral because of a campaign I designed. Their revenue tripled in a week. They sent me a bonus, $10,000. It was more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I paid off my debts, upgraded my old laptop, and cried. Not from sadness this time, but from relief. For the first time, I felt like I was becoming someone. With the money, I officially launched my own company, Rise Marketing Company. The name felt right, because that's what I was doing. Rising. I rented a tiny office space the size of a closet. The wallpaper peeled. The ceiling leaked when it rained, but it was mine. I started hiring a few freelancers who believed in the same mission, helping underdog creators grow. Within a year, we had dozens of clients. Within 2, hundreds. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were thriving. My parents had no idea. I hadn't spoken to them in over a year, except for the occasional generic text. But one afternoon, I got a message from Emily. "Hey sis, Mom says you're still working at that bakery? You should come visit. Maybe I can help you find a real job when I'm back from Paris." I stared at the message and laughed. Not in a cruel way, just in disbelief. She still thought I was that same quiet girl who stood in her shadow. I typed a reply. "I'm doing okay, Emily. Thanks." She answered with a heart emoji. That night, I signed a deal with a massive lifestyle brand worth over $500,000. I wished I could tell her, just to see her face, but no. Not yet. My company grew faster than I ever imagined. We opened offices in 2 cities, hired a full-time team, and landed major international clients. The girl who used to work at a bakery was now negotiating 6-figure contracts over Zoom. Still, no matter how high I climbed, part of me waited for the day my family would finally see me, really see me. That day came 3 years later. It started with a phone call from my dad. His voice was shaky. "Michelle, we need your help. Your sister's company is in trouble." I didn't know what to say. Apparently, Emily had tried to start a fashion brand after college. My parents invested everything into it, hundreds of thousands. But the company was failing. Their reputation, their finances, all of it was collapsing. For a moment, I felt sorry for them. Then I realized this was the same cycle they built themselves. My dad said quietly, "We heard you have some kind of marketing business. Maybe you could take a look." I told him I'd think about it. But that night, as I sat in my office, the skyline glowing through the windows of my high-rise building, I realized what this meant. This was full circle. They once told me I'd never be successful. Now they were coming to me for help. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry, but because I wanted to handle this differently. I didn't want revenge fueled by rage. I wanted justice. Calm, undeniable, poetic. I opened my laptop and began researching Emily's company. And there it was, the opportunity I'd been waiting for. They weren't just in trouble. They were about to go bankrupt. Their brand, the one my parents built around Emily's talent, was up for sale. And the buyer's list, open to the public. It had been 4 years since I left home. 4 years of struggle, failure, and relentless work. 4 years of building something from nothing. And now I was ready. I sat in my office, overlooking the city skyline. Rye's marketing company was thriving, hundreds of clients, multiple offices, revenue I'd never dreamed of when I was scraping by in that tiny apartment. And yet, the one thing that made my heart race wasn't the numbers. It was the thought of finally facing my past. Emily's company, the one my parents had poured everything into, was up for sale. The financial statements were public. The brand they'd hyped as Emily's destiny was on the brink of bankruptcy. I smiled, not out of malice, but because I knew the opportunity was right. The universe had a funny way of balancing things. The meeting with my parents was scheduled for a Wednesday afternoon. They had no idea I was the one buying the company. I arrived early, dressed sharply, confident, carrying the aura of someone who had clawed her way to the top. Dad greeted me first. "Michelle, thank you for coming," he said. His voice wavered, betraying nerves I had never heard before. Mom appeared next, with that familiar mixture of concern and pride that had always accompanied Emily. "Michelle, we just need advice. Emily's brand is failing, and we don't know what to do," she said. I nodded politely. "Yes, I've reviewed everything," I said. "I think I can help, but it will need a full restructuring." Their eyes lit up. Relief. I paused. Then I smiled. "Actually," I said, taking a deep breath, "I'll be taking over the company." The room went silent. Dad's face went pale. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. "Emily." She looked like she had seen a ghost. You're buying us out." Dad stammered. "Yes," I said. "All debts, assets, branding, everything. Effective immediately." Emily's voice cracked. "Michelle, how?" I leaned back, calm, collected. The girl they once dismissed as simple, now the one holding all the power. "You told me I'd never succeed. You said I wasn't worth the investment. You said I'd never go anywhere. Well, here I am." I could see the weight of every word they had ever spoken to me sinking into their minds. And instead of revenge fueled by anger, I offered them perspective. I'm not here to punish anyone. I just wanted to show that success isn't about favoritism. It's about determination, persistence, and refusing to let anyone else define your worth. Emily started crying. "Michelle, I'm sorry. I didn't realize." I shook my head. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to yourself. You have potential, but you have to work for it." I did. Mom spoke softly. "Michelle, we never meant to hurt you." I smiled faintly. "I know, but intentions don't erase actions. I hope this teaches all of us something." And then I left the room, leaving them with the company, their legacy, now in my hands, and a sense of quiet triumph that felt better than any shout of victory. The first day running the company was surreal. I walked through the offices, introduced myself to employees who had only known the old leadership, and set new expectations. No more favoritism, no more handouts. Merit, skill, and passion would lead here. I made my first big decision: relaunch the brand with a focus on authenticity and empowerment. Campaigns were designed to highlight creators who had been overlooked, exactly like me. Within weeks, sales skyrocketed, social media buzzed, and everywhere I went, people recognized the new energy. But the sweetest part? The family. Dad called me a week later. "Michelle, we can't believe what you've done. You've turned everything around." I responded simply, "I didn't turn it around for you. I turned it around for me. But I hope it inspires you too." Mom remained silent, perhaps reflecting, perhaps ashamed. Emily never called. I didn't mind. She would learn, eventually. Months passed. The company flourished beyond anyone's imagination. I had the life I had fought for: financial security, creative freedom, and the confidence that I had earned everything with my own hands. And in the quiet moments, when I sat in my office overlooking the city, I realized that the most powerful victory wasn't money, fame, or recognition. It was proof. Proof to myself that I mattered. Proof that love, guidance, and support weren't necessary to succeed. Determination and resilience were enough. I had transformed pain into power. I had turned being dismissed and underestimated into a story of triumph. And one day, when Emily finally called, unsure and hesitant, I would answer. Not with anger, not with malice, but with the calm, unwavering confidence of someone who had already won. Because Michelle, the girl they once ignored, was finally unstoppable.